Welcome to the PJ Hoop Podcast. I'm your host, PJ, and if this is your very first time checking out my podcast, first and foremost, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to check out my podcast. I promise you won't be disappointed on my podcast. This is a basketball podcast. So normally I like to go over the NBA, college, high school, and international basketball. Right now, the NBA playoffs is going on, so we're not going to cover any of those other things. If you want to check out any of those, me talking about any of that other stuff, I'll leave a link up in the corner for a playlist where you can go check out a more normalized episode that I've had throughout the year. I'll leave it up in the corner for you guys. But today's episode, I kind of want to give you guys a piece of some NBA news, and then we'll dive into the Eastern and Western Conference matchups and the conference finals and whatnot, okay? So the NBA just announced the all defensive teams today, I believe. Yeah, it was today. They announced it today. And so on first team all defense, we got Draymond Green, we got Lou Dort, we got Dyson Daniels, we got Evan Mobley, and then we got Amen Thompson. On second team, all defense, we got Tamani Kamara, we got Jalen Williams, we got Triple J, my bad, and then Big Zubac, and then we also got Rudy Gobert. So those are the all defensive teams. I know people were kind of mad at certain people being snubbed. I'm not going to go into it right now in this episode. We got other stuff to talk about. So also I want to give a shout out to Shea. Shea just won MVP. But the real reason I want to give him a shout out is because he gave all his teammates $10,000. A $10,000 gift basket that included an iPhone, Dre Beats, Rolex, and then a Canadian Goose jacket that had their team record on the side of it. So I just wanted to give him a shout out because you don't really see that kind of stuff happen that often, really at that much. I remember years ago, LeBron gave all his teammates like custom beats. I remember that, but $10,000 per teammate, that's a lot of money, Obviously not for somebody of his ilk, but still, that's a lot of money regardless, So I just wanted to give him a shout out because I thought that was very humbling and, just a really nice gesture for him to do because he didn't have to do that, And he could have just gave him one thing, could have just gave him all Rolexes and that be it, but he didn't do that. So I wanted to give a shout out to him for what he did, And then also the Denver Nuggets announced that Dave Adamman would be their permanent head coach moving forward. So I wanted to clap him in a little bit. I thought that was a good hiring for them. I personally really liked what I seen out of him in the playoffs. I liked the adjustments that he was making. I liked that. Also liked the substitutions that he was making. I thought it was pretty dope to watch a first-time head coach with that short amount of time in the playoffs right away and not being afraid to play those young guys, not being afraid to sit some vets, not being afraid to go into that zone. And the way they implemented that zone caused problems for OKC. So I do want to give him flowers, bro, because I like that. I liked at least that we've seen out of him. We'll see. Obviously, with the full off season and whatnot, we'll see how that all goes for him. But I thought that was a good signing for Denver to move forward with him. But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of talk about that stuff a little bit with you guys. Now we're gonna dive. Now we'll start off and we'll dive into the Eastern Conference. The Pacers and the Knicks obviously played yesterday. That was an epic game. Pacers lead the series 1-0 right now. They play again tomorrow. But I want to start off. I want to talk about the Knicks really fast. I feel that, obviously, yes, Indiana went and took the game, but also New York gave up the game to them. But it wasn't just in that window, like things build up. Obviously, yes, in that last 2 minutes, New York did what they did, But I want to talk about their free throws and then their turnovers. Jalen Brunson by himself had 7 turnovers. The entire Indiana Pacer team had 7 turnovers. So New York was having a turnover problem throughout the game. Free throw shooting. They shot 28 of 40 from the free throw line. And obviously we know what happened down the stretch at the free throw line. But I do want to give some love. To Mitchell Robinson. When he comes in the game, this New York team, like Mitchell Robinson's a starting 5, in my opinion. He's a starting 5 when he's healthy. Starting 5. So you can see the team's offense and their defense change with him being in the lineup. So I just wanted to give him some love because, he's been great for them coming off the bench. Cat got to get better. Cat got to get better at guarding Halliburton and Reed in the pick and roll a lot better because they were killing him in the pick and roll with Hallie. But then on the other side, I want to talk about the Pacers. I thought simply that was just a great resilient win for the Pacers, for them to be able to battle back. I believe they only had like a 2% chance with under like 2 minutes to go to win the game. and they won the game. Like I said, they only had 7 turnovers, which to me is that's solid. That's just clean. That's just very clean. Also want to give a shout out to Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin almost had a double-double. He had 8 points and 10 rebounds in 20 minutes. And he obviously had that big putback dunk towards the end. So I wanted to give him a shout out. And then also something that I really also want to give some love, obviously, to Neesmith. He pretty much almost pulled off a Reggie Miller. You know, like he pretty much, he had, I think, 5 threes in what the last, 3 minutes? He hit like 5. He just got blazing hot. It was fun to watch. I enjoyed it. I was texting my friend. It was just crazy. I was texting my friends and whatnot. Like, it was great. It was great to watch that. But I also want to give some love to Tyrese Halliburton because I've always thought this. I just haven't came on the camera and said it, but to me, he really reminds me of just like a bigger Steve Nash. Like the way he sees the floor, the way he manipulates and moves around. He just reminds me of Steve Nash a lot. He reminds me of Steve Nash. Obviously, they're gonna have a chance to get to the finals here. We'll see what happens as the series progresses on. And obviously, like I've had conversations with people, you know, over the last couple weeks, ever since I came on here and I told you guys I felt like Tyrese Halliburton couldn't be the best player on a championship team. I still feel that way. I still don't believe that he can be the best player on a championship team. And we're not just talking about getting to the finals. We're talking about actually winning the NBA finals. I still don't think he could be your best player. But I did want to give him some love because, like I said, he reminds me of Steve Nash. I don't know if he'll ever win an MVP or 2. You know, I don't know that. But his game really does resemble Steve Nash a lot to me. Just the way he manipulates and moves around the floor, the way he operates in the pick and roll. And I do hope Indiana gets somebody else there for him. You know, like I'm a root for my light skin. You know what I'm saying? My fellow light skinned brother. I'm a root for him. You know, so. But yeah, this series it's gonna be a fun series, man. I think it's going 7. I'm not even gonna tell you guys who I'm gonna pick. I'm just want to enjoy the series at this point. This series, I just want to enjoy it. You guys know I got OKC winning the NBA title. I felt that way before the playoffs started. In my preseason, I had OKC coming out the West, and I had Boston coming out of the East. Obviously, Boston, you know, what happened with Boston happened. But yeah, I still am rocking with OKC, so it doesn't really matter who wins this series, in my opinion. So, but I do think it's going to go 7 games. But yeah, so that's this series. So, and I also kind of just want to talk about Neesmith a little bit more. I thought that game, obviously, yes, he got blazing hot, historically hot. So obviously that was rare. What we witnessed was very rare. You know, for him to get that hot, for Hallie to hit the shot, bouncing off the the back of the rim, like like that's rare. You know, but I do want to point out, and I've come on here and I've told you guys this, that role players can win you playoff games, but your stars, your all-stars, and superstar players are going to win you series, you know? And that was an example of that. You know, Neesmith won them that game. He did. And so just wanted to give him more flowers and just point out to you guys, you know, your role players are important. You know, the role players have won OKC a couple games in the playoffs this year. You know, your role players are very, very important. Cameron Payne, I remember, got blazing hot for the Knicks against Detroit. You know, he won them a playoff game. You know, like, role players are important. So when building teams, you know, it's important to take into mind, can this role player give me something in the playoffs, you know? But yeah, so we'll go over to the Western Conference. We'll talk about, obviously, I just told you guys, OKC, man. Okay, we'll start off with OKC. OKC leads the series right now 1-0. They play tonight in about an hour and a half they play. So I'll be watching that game. But, I mean, there's not much I really have to say about Oklahoma. They're doing pretty much what I told you guys, and I believe that they were going to do throughout the playoffs. Before the playoffs started, I came on here, I told you guys, hey, I think OKC, I think they're going to be a pack of dogs. They're going to be a pack of hounds, bloodhounds on the defensive end. I told you guys, I think they're just going to be relentless. I told you guys that I believe that their defense and then also the others would shine throughout this playoff run. Obviously, I already knew what we were getting from Shea. We already knew what we were getting from Shea. That's no surprise. But I told you guys I felt that their defense and the others were going to be very, very – we're going to lead the way and really be somewhat of highlighted on this team. You know, really that defense. I screamed to you guys that and they haven't let up. I mean, last night, 2 nights ago, they had 13 steals. At the beginning of the NBA season, they were averaging more steals than they were turnovers. So I didn't understand how people kind of didn't lead with that when they were talking about Oklahoma going into the playoffs. To me, it was obvious. Yeah, towards the end of the year, they kind of let up off their gas. But I think that may have been because they were, getting a little fatigued, but also I think them understanding like, okay, we learned from last year. We got to kind of pace ourselves at this point in the series. I mean, this point in the season, So also experience probably played a part in it. But yeah, I kind of wanted to give them some love for their defense because, like I said it. I came on here. I kept telling you guys it. I mean, yeah. Anyways, I also want to give a shout out to Cason Wallace. He had a really good game coming off the bench. He had 7 assists coming off the bench. What's the other dude's name? Kenrich. I think his name is Kenrich Williams. He had a really good game coming off the bench too. He had 19 points. Isaiah Joe darn near had a double-double. He had 11 points and 8 rebounds in 13 minutes. So shout out to Isaiah Joe. So one thing I guess that I'll be monitoring going into even tonight's game is that Jalen Williams and Shea did not shoot that well at all. So I'm interested to see if that was just them just not playing well or if Minnesota's defense is going to continue to cause them problems. I'm interested to see. Sorry, I've been up since 4 this morning. Sorry about that. But yeah, I'm interested to see what Minnesota's defense does there. Let's talk about Minnesota now. Anthony Edwards, obviously he has to be more aggressive. He only took 13 shots. I have no doubt in my mind we will see Ant take north of 20 shots this game. So if you guys are sports bettors, I would bet the over on his shot attempts, no doubt. McDaniel's got to stay out of foul trouble. I understand people believe that Shea is a free throw merchant. He tries to pick and draw fouls. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about Jaden McDaniels adjusting. The great defenders, just great players, and even good players, they make adjustments, okay? He got to see how Shea was going to play, how he's going to have to play Shea after game 1. I expect him to play a lot more cleaner game tonight and maybe only have 3 to 4 fouls instead of getting fouled out with he only played, I think he only played like 25 minutes, 26 minutes. He didn't play that much. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, I expect him to make some adjustments. That's what I'll be watching for with him tonight. Obviously, Ant being more aggressive. And another thing, I think this might just be a bad matchup and a bad series for Mike Conley. Oklahoma City, they're very young on their guards. A lot of them got size. They're fast. They're young. They're strong. I just think this could be a really bad matchup for an older player like Mike Conley. I just think this could be a bad matchup, and I could be wrong, but I think this might be a bad matchup for Mike Conley, a really bad matchup. Is what I took after watching game 1. They shot 15 to 51 from 3. They got to get to the rim more, man, and try to impose their physical strength and their height and stuff onto this OKC team. This Minnesota team is much bigger and should be more physical than Oklahoma. And I expect that tonight. I expect Minnesota to be taking less threes. I don't expect them to be at 51 threes. Maybe down to probably 35 to 38 threes is what I expect from Minnesota tonight. They can't play that 3-ball game against OKC. OKC was the best defensive team in the NBA this season, but also they're the best defensive team defending the 3-point line as well. So you don't want to get into that kind of game because you're playing right into OKC's hands at that point, in my opinion. So I expect them tonight again to impose their will, get to the rim, get to the paint, potentially draw more fouls. But yeah, so that's all I really have to say about that. I obviously have OKC winning this series. I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and tell you guys why. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys on today's episode. It's obviously a short one because the playoffs is kind of dwindling down. But as soon as the playoffs are over, I may or may not, I haven't decided, I may or may not take about maybe 2-3 weeks off and kind of just reset my mind before we ramp up and start talking about the NBA draft and talking about all these summer camps for the high school kids and the international players. There's a really big international tournament going on right now. My guy Mohamed Dabone, he's playing over in that. He had a really good game. He's next. I think Dabone is going to be the next international dude who's, obviously it's hard to project how good a player is going to be. The kid's 13? He's 13, 14, but he's playing up right now. He's playing up 4 years, but Dabone is special. In my opinion, he's special. He's next. from overseas next. And I've talked about him back in the fall. I talked about him to you guys. Even a little bit last summer, I talked about him a little bit to you guys. But yeah, I've been keeping up with him. He's playing in this tournament right now for I think he's playing for Barcelona right now. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your day for checking out my podcast. And PJ is out.